Alright, welcome back. In video 2, we're going to focus on multiplying binomials. Please remember, a binomial means we have two terms. The two properties, or two things that we're going to need to be really successful in this section, is the distributive property and like terms. The distributive property is when we multiplied what we learned already, a monomial, one term, times a binomial, two terms. And this is where it's all multiplication. 2 times x gives me 2x. Plus 2 times 4 gives me 8. There are no like terms, I can't combine anything. Also, we had this part where we had x times 4x to get 4x squared, because x times x is x squared. Subtraction, x times 2 is 2x. Also not like terms. Like terms was when we have same base, same exponent. So same variable, same exponent. Those are the two skills that we're going to need to be successful. Alright, this first problem, I've just written this out twice because I'm going to show you two different ways or two different methodologies as far as multiplying this out. I know it's multiplication because it's two terms written right next to two terms, nothing in between. It's not addition or subtraction because there's no addition or subtraction sign. So what I need to do is distribute. But because there's two terms here, not just one like we had above, I have to distribute both of them separately. The x and not the 2, but the plus 2. The sign matters. It gets connected with that 2. So that looks like this. X gets distributed here and here. Distribute it to everything in the other parentheses, not inside the same. X times 2x is 2x squared. X times plus 1 is plus 1x, or just plus x. Once I've distributed the first term, distribute the second term. 2 times 2x. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 4, and you have an x. 2 times plus 1, they're both positive, so it's plus 2. That's the distributive property part of this. You have to do the same distributive property we've been doing, but you have to do it twice in the case of our binomials. The second part is like terms. Now that I've multiplied, I do have like terms in here, and those have to be combined. 2x squared is on its own, it doesn't have like terms. X plus 4x, both of them are positive. That gives me a plus 5x and a plus 2. These are not like terms. I'm done. Now, the second one's really not any different. I'm just going to put a word on it that I don't like to use, but a lot of teachers use this. They're going to call it the FOIL method. And the F in FOIL stands for first. That means multiply the two first terms together. Well, this is a first term. X, first term in this binomial. 2x is the first term in the second binomial. Means multiply those two. 2x squared. The O stands for outer. Take the two terms on the farmost outside. That's your x and your 1, and multiply them together. And that gets you plus x. The I is the inner, the two innermost terms. The 2 and the 2x gets you 4x, and the L is the last term in each binomial. That's your 2 and your 1. Multiply them, and you get a 2. You still have like terms, giving you plus 5x. You still don't have like terms with 2x squared or 2. We get the same answer. And if you look at the pattern, we did the same thing. This is just a way to help you remember it, but it only works when you have binomial and binomial. That's why I don't teach it as a FOIL method. I teach it as the distributive property, because we're going to see in the next video or two where we're going to get to bigger polynomials that this FOIL method won't necessarily work for. So the idea is this. We need to multiply every term in your first binomial or in your first polynomial by each term in your second. So there might be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 terms here. There might be 2 or 3 or 4 terms here or more. Every term gets distributed. Move back and distribute the next one. Then distribute the next one and combine your like terms. I want you guys to take a second and try number 1. Number 2 is going to be a little bit different. You can see there's a subtraction sign in there, so if you want to try it, go for it, but I'm going to ask you to hold off on that. But pause and try number 1 and see if you can distribute and combine your like terms. So we get x squared plus 5x plus 6. Distribute the x. X squared plus 3x, distribute the 2, 2x plus 6, remember it's multiplication. 3x and 2x are like terms, they combine. For number 2, the process is identical. We're not going to ask you to do anything different, but what you have to be careful of is this is a negative term. So when I distribute 2x times x is going to give me 2x squared. But 2x times 4, it's actually a 2x times negative 4. So I'm going to have a minus 8x, because the 2 is positive, the 4 is negative. So the sign here is what's going to be tricky, and you have to be really careful with this stuff. Okay? And then I'm distributing a positive 1. 1 times x is plus 1x, or just plus x. And 1 times negative 4 is minus 4. So again, you have to be careful with the sign. Like terms are still the same. 2x squared doesn't have a like term. Negative 8x and positive x is negative 7x minus 4. And then I'll do number 3 with you as well. It's the same concept, except now things are a little bit different as well. I now also have a negative here. I have a negative here. I also have a y squared. So that's the only difference though. Everything else is going to be done the same way. I'm going to take my 4y and distribute it to my second set of parentheses. 4y times 3y squared. 4 times 3 is 12. Y times y squared is y to the third. But then I'm distributing 4y to negative 5. 4 times negative 5 is minus 20. Don't forget the y. And now I'm not distributing 2, I'm distributing negative 2. Again, it matters. Negative 2 times positive 3y squared is negative 6y squared. And the last one becomes negative 2 times negative 5. Negative times negative is positive. 2 times 5 is 10. And when I look here, I don't have any like terms, but I'm not done, because you do have to have this written in standard form. Largest exponent term first, that's 12y cubed. The next biggest exponent term is a minus 6y squared. That gets written second. Then your y term, which is a minus 20y, and your constant term goes last. So, double distributive property, combine like terms, be extremely careful with the sign. That's what's going to trip most people up here.